Okay, so AI agents. They're not some far-off sci-fi thing anymore, right? They're here, on our machines, ready to work. But, chatting with an AI is one thing. Actually building with one, that's a whole different ballgame. So let's dive into this. We're going to break down 5 key patterns for using AI agents so you can really start making them work for you.
And this is the real question, isn't it? We all know these agents are powerful, but it's not always clear how to harness that power. Do you just keep it simple with prompts? Do you go all out and build some complex server? The answer here can be the difference between getting a project done in an hour or getting it done in a week.
To make this all feel a bit more real, let's imagine a scenario. You're an engineer, you've got a hard deadline breathing down your neck, and you need hundreds, literally hundreds of amazing, custom images for a massive presentation. The team's counting on you. You know an agent can do this, but what's the smartest, fastest way to get it done? That's the problem we're going to solve today. We're going to think about this whole thing as a staircase. Every step up represents a more sophisticated, a more powerful way of working with these agents. We'll start right there on the ground floor and work our way up step by step, figuring out when and, more importantly, why you'd take that next step. So this is our roadmap. This is our staircase. We're going to start with the most basic, hands-on interaction. Then we'll level up to codifying instructions into reusable prompts. From there, we'll get agents to manage other agents, build custom bridges to other services, and finally, wrap the whole thing up into a full-blown application. All right, step 1, the ground floor. This is where we all begin. It's just you, your agent, and a chat window. A direct, back-and-forth conversation. You prompt, it responds. You tweak the prompt, it responds again. For our image problem, this is you manually typing, hey, create an image of a blue robot. Then, okay, make the robot happier. One image at a time. And here's the trade-off, right? The pros are obvious. It's super simple, it's direct, and you have total control over the output. But the cons, oh man, the cons are a killer. The scalability is just awful because you are the bottleneck. The big takeaway here, this is a fantastic place to start, but it's a terrible place to finish.
So let's climb up to step 2. This is where you get some serious leverage. Instead of typing the same kind of instructions over and over again, you turn them into a single, reusable command. Honestly, this is the 80-20 of agent patterns. It's going to give you 80% of the value for just 20% of the effort.
And here's a fantastic rule of thumb for any engineer out there. If you find yourself doing the same manual task 3 times, just stop. That's a pattern. Automate it. In our world, that means you build a reusable prompt. If you've manually tweaked the prompt to get 3 perfect images, it is absolutely time to build a command. The advantages here are just massive. You write the prompt once, and you can reuse it forever. You can stick it in version control like any other piece of code, and you can iterate on it at light speed. The cons? They're pretty minor, really. A little bit of setup at the start, and, you got to keep your commands organized. It's a tiny price to pay for this much power. Now we're really starting to climb. In this pattern, your main agent becomes a manager. It doesn't do the heavy lifting itself. Instead, it spins up and delegates tasks to specialized sub-agents. So for our image problem, you could have one agent that's an expert at creating images and another that's an expert at editing them, all working in parallel. And this is where things get really, really powerful. You can parallelize the work, generate 20, 50, 100 images all at the same time. You can create specialized agents for every little part of the job. The bottom line here is a massive, almost exponential increase in the computing power you can throw at a problem. But with great power comes, well, you know how it goes, new challenges. It's incredibly scalable, for sure. But you could get locked into a specific provider's ecosystem, like Anthropic's Claude, which is kind of leading the way with this feature right now. It also gets way harder to debug. It's not quite a black box, but it's what you might call a gray box, where it's tough to see exactly what's happening inside. Okay, step 4 is a big one. This is where you're not just writing prompts anymore, you are building a piece of infrastructure. Think of it like a universal remote for all your agents. It's your own private server that acts as this one controlled interface, letting your agents talk to any API or any internal service in a perfectly standardized way. For our image problem, this server could connect our agent to the company's internal library of brand assets, making sure every single image is perfectly on brand. So the main benefit here is control. You've got one integration point for all your agents to use any tool, and it's completely customizable. The trade-off, though, is pretty significant. You now own this server. You have to maintain it. And that costs real engineering time and effort. This pattern is for when you absolutely need to combine a bunch of different services in a very specific, repeatable way.
And here we are at the top of the staircase, the full application. This is where you go all in. You're building a complete product with its own user interface, its own API, a command line interface, the whole shebang. The agent interaction is now just one feature of a much, much larger system that you've built.
But let's bring it back to reality for a second. Our original problem, making a bunch of images for a presentation, for that specific use case, building a full application is, it's extreme overkill. This pattern is for when you're building a long-term product, not solving a big but ultimately one-off task.
So now we've seen all 5 patterns. We've climbed the whole staircase. But maybe the most important skill of all is knowing which step to stand on. How do you pick the right pattern for the job without, massively over-engineering your solution? This quote right here is the key. It is a fundamental principle of good engineering. You don't assume a problem is hard. You start with the absolute simplest solution, and you only add complexity when the problem forces you to. You have to earn the right to build something complicated.
This table basically lays it all out. It's your cheat sheet. Are you looking at a brand new problem? Start simple, human in the loop. Have you found yourself doing the same thing over and over? That's a pattern, so codify it with a reusable prompt. Do you need a bunch of specialized things happening at once? Time to scale your compute with sub-agents. Need to connect to lots of different services? Build that control layer with a wrapper server. And finally, if you're building a real product with a long-term vision, then you go all in with a full application.
It all boils down to this simple but super powerful engineering playbook. First things first, solve the immediate problem right in front of you. As you're working, keep an eye out for patterns. When you see one, codify it. And only scale up your solution when you absolutely have to. This is how you avoid that classic engineering trap of over-engineering.
And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought. We're all starting at the bottom of the staircase, right? Learning how to earn our way up step by step. But as we get better with these patterns, just imagine the kinds of incredibly powerful and genuinely useful things we're all going to build when we finally do reach the top.